Belial is no more, and Caldeum can thrive once again. I now hunt Azmodan. Leah has seen visions of his armies marching from Aliat Crater. Only the ancient fortress of Bastion's Keep bars their way. But without me, it will fall.
The Keep's defenses cannot hold. Its soldiers are scattered, fleeing before Azmodan's onslaught, which rushes forth from Ariat Crater. Should the Keep fall, Azmodan will claim the Black Soul Stone. If he does, there will be no hope for this world.
The Keep will stand. I will rally its defenders.
Light the signal fires, and show these soldiers that we are not yet defeated. Salvation has arrived. Go, you are needed below.
Tyrael will not fail these people, I know it.
Indeed, we know it true. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Time to continue with the Witch Doctor.
The Black Soulstone's getting hotter, straining against me. They're whispering to me from inside.
The demons within seek escape. Only your power can keep it from splitting apart, my daughter. It's a heavy burden, but the fate of the world lies in your hands.
The storm fights against your control.
It's getting more difficult, but it's nothing I can't handle.
The demons war and rage to escape their imprisonment. Their fury will only increase over time. Leah is very brave, but we'd best hurry before her strength fails.
The end of Azmodan will come to pass, and the Black Soul Stone will be his prison. His great evil will be banished from the world.
Only fools celebrate victory before the battle's begun. Along with Belial, Azmodan has ruled the ravening hordes of the burning hells for over 3 centuries. His cunning is beyond imagining.
The voices of the unformed land seek his death. I will give it to them.
If by cunning she means taunting you while he just constantly throws his minions at your keep, then yes. So, achievement hunters, who may not have known this already, who probably already do, Leah's journal over here by the right. Shall we listen? Take a peek?
We've reached Bastion's Keep, but holding the Black Soulstone together takes up all of my time now. Sometimes I think of the wounded soldiers and their families outside, but then my concentration fails and the spells weaken. I must stay focused and trust my friend to save the Keep and its people.
Alright.
Someone's got to light those signal fires. It's not me.
You heard the angel's command. Let the call sound forth. Bastion's Keep shall not fall.
Not the biggest contingent of soldiers, but hey.
Your keep will fall.
Light the signal fire!
Demon troopers form the meat of the armies of hell. Their masters use them roughly, sending them into the vanguard for most battles. For their part, the troopers are easily excited by opportunities to exhibit their great talent for violence. In fact, the troopers frequently other when they are left idle.
We saw the signal fire. We must light the rest, but the demons swarm around them.
Get back inside the keep!
No, I have to help hold the walls.
Need more mana.
Lots of death. And I have my dogs back.
This is a chance to prove our worth. Let's get going.
Lots of snaring going on.
Asmodan created the demonic Hellflyers after he nearly lost to Tyrael in battle thousands of years ago. The angels made glorious use of their great luminescent wings to outmaneuver the demon host and assail its commander. Frustrated by his near defeat, Asmodan began breeding winged demons capable of tearing the angels asunder.
Breeding very specific demons for your cause. Huh. Dedication, I suppose. Yeah, these shaman are getting annoying. Let's... Alright, not bad, not bad. So, I hit level 26. So I'm interested to see what kind of build we get now. So, we're going to get rid of Sacrifice. So we're going to change up the build just a tiny bit. Let's see, what do we get? Mass Confusion, Unstable Realm. Reduces the cooldown to 45 seconds. That's not bad. Not bad at all. Could use that a little more often. Let's go ahead and throw that on. Do I have a cooldown reduction yet? I think that's later on. Let's see what we have. Fortitude, damage reduction, mana cost reduction, life regeneration. No. Okay, well, let's see. Let's look at what else we got before I move on. Zombie Dogs is going to get replaced with Hex here with Hedge Magic. This is one I like. Probably not going to be as useful right now, but is one I can see being useful later. In fact, I've seen some Witch Doctor builds using it. Fetish Shaman periodically heals for 223, so that'll go up. So every 15 seconds I have a way of getting some health back. So healing, very nice. Goodbye, Zombie Dogs. I'll miss you. Next, here we go. This is Under Decay. Acid Cloud. Acid rains down, and now it is Acid Rain. The initial area of effect is increased to 24 yards. Wow. That's kind of impressive. Let's so that's going to be a nice big AoE. It's fairly mana intensive, so I think I'm going to go ahead and keep my Spine Dart for more mana regen. Death is Life gives me a chance of getting dogs. I don't think I want the big bad voodoo though. I think let's go back to the Gargantuan. And how will we do this? Do I have a secondary on? That's Grasp. Okay, very good. So Grasp of the Dead gives me a chance of getting some dogs. How do I want to do this? I can pick any passive, really. We can play a little defensively since I'm using poison damage. I'm using Acid Cloud and Poison Dart. I could go into Bad Medicine. That's fine. Gruesome Feast. That will still work with my Grasp of the Dead because that has a chance to give me health globes. That's intelligence and mana back. So let's just do it that way. Let's... There he is. He's kind of purple now. Isn't he cute? So cute I could cry. So as we're progressing, some news has come out for Diablo 3. They are moving forward to release patch 1.0.5. We'll get to talk about that here in a moment.
Transferring to Bastion's keep is as dull as I imagined. The soldiers spend most of their time gambling. I guess this is what I should expect from this hollowed out rock. A shadow of its former glory. Still, I am here to provide for Anna. I hope she is well.
Let's look at the radius on that. My goodness. Look at the splash radius on that. It's huge. Suffer, demons of hell.
I do not have enough mana.
By my soul!
So yeah, lots of changes. We don't know much yet. Only a couple things have been released. One that I'm so happy to hear is that crowd control effects are going to have the reduction that's innate on higher difficulty levels removed. So if you haven't noticed, or you haven't been kind of reading what the changes are, in Inferno mode, whenever you try to do a crowd control ability, and this is mainly going to affect stun. So if you've got an ability like Stomp for the Barbarian that stuns enemies for a certain amount of time, got an ability like a Fear, like the fears I get here from my Witch Doctor, those abilities are reduced as you go into higher difficulties. So let's just kind of take a quick look here. Which section is it under? Horrify gives you a 4-second fear, right? Here in normal mode, I get that full 4 seconds. Great! 4 seconds for me to basically get away from the enemy, or to get them away from me. This is fantastic, right? Well, that time, the amount of time that it reduces, is brought down. So in Nightmare, it might be actually only 3 seconds.
I had long hoped that the demonic Hellbearer was a fiction, a nightmare from the troubled minds of my ancestors. Just imagine. A demon taller than a castle tower who can retch up endless minions from the depths of the hells. Surely our people are doomed if such an abomination exists.
Yeah, I'm just going to stand in the explosion. So the big thing, though, is in Inferno, that CC ability is actually going to be reduced by, I believe it was 60%, they said. So that 4-second fear might actually only be 2 seconds, or even less. Maybe a second and a half. A second and a half of fear is not really enough for me to get away. And so what happens is a lot of people that move on into Inferno don't use crowd control abilities. They would rather use something defensive. For example, my Barbarian, I used to use Stomp. When I was leveling, I was using Stomp. I used Wrenching Stomp because I liked the increased radius. It brought the enemy into me so I could bring them forward into an attack. Hit them without a problem. Problem is it didn't last nearly long enough in Inferno mode to be worth it. I would rather use something like Ignore Pain to reduce my damage by a certain amount.
I hear you're the best there is.
I'd rather take less damage than get a substandard stun, because the damage reduction abilities were not changed based on difficulty. Only the crowd control ones. Ooh, ow. So what are they doing? Well, they're removing the crowd control reduction. Kind of. The first hit that you get on any kind of crowd control ability is going to get its full effect, which is great. But every time you use a new crowd control ability, it's going to get worse. It's not going to be as helpful, not going to be as useful. I keep forgetting that mass confusion centers from me, not from my mouse pointer. So yeah, that's why I'm doing weird things with my mass confusion. Okay, so it's diminishing returns like you might be used to in other RPGs, MMORPGs. Again, since it's the one I'm most familiar with, I'm going to reference WoW. I tend to reference WoW in a lot of my videos, and honestly, it's because twofold. One, it is basically a very popular game that's already done a lot of this stuff before, And 2, because it was popular, it's very relatable. So it's very easy for me to say, hey, World of Warcraft did this, and people will be like, oh yeah, I know that. I remember that. You know, millions of people played that game, so yeah, there you have it. Now, the thing about diminishing returns in World of Warcraft is that eventually monsters would become immune to whatever type of ability you were trying to use. So if you were using, say, polymorph to turn them into a sheep, eventually you couldn't do it anymore. It would last for, you know, 10 seconds, 8 seconds, to, you know, it would just get lower and lower and lower until finally you would just see immune. And what they didn't want to do was add immunities. They already went away from elemental damage immunities, and they said, you know what, having immunities to crowd control just doesn't feel right in a Diablo game. And I agree. Heavily agree with that statement. I think that would have been very bad to do. In fact, I think the reduction that they were doing already was bad enough, because even as they've noticed, that just kept people from wanting to use those abilities. So now it'll get reduced, and here's the way it works. So as of right now, in Inferno, CC abilities are reduced to 60%, right? So at a maximum, your diminishing return will be 60%. So that means if you CC a lot, eventually the CC levels that you're going to get up to are exactly what we have now. So they're not going to ever become useless, they'll be exactly what we're used to already.
I strike at your heart.
Alright, to go into detail of how this works, because it's actually a little complicated, is that a monster will have no crowd control reduction on it to begin with. The very first time you... Oh, I missed a goblin. The very first time that you crowd control something, it will start to gain 10% reduction to crowd control. And this is for every second that is under effect. So for 10, you get basically 10% resistance for every second that a monster has been put under crowd control effect. So, for example, if I stun a creature for 5 seconds, while it's stunned, it's gaining resistance. It's going to get up to 50% reduction. So, right there, not quite to the level it was at before, but very close. So if I do that, and then someone else hits it with another 10-second reduction, it's already got a 50% reduction on it, so it's going to only be 5 seconds. Now, because you've hit it with, since it got 5 seconds, it's going to get another 5. So, and there you can see it's never going to quite go to 100. It's going to cap. So what happens is if you get over the cap, so like I said, 60% is the cap, right? And let's just say, for our example, since I got distracted there for a moment and lost track of where my numbers are, let's just say that the amount of resistances we would have added up in total would have been 100, right? You're not going to ever have 100% reduction, but the monster will keep track of that. So the monster will remember 100% reduction, but you will only see 60%. Now, for every second that a creature is not being controlled by crowd control effects, it will lose 10%. So in other words, if it's under control, gains 10%. If it's not under control, loses 10%. It goes back and forth just like this. So if I don't touch that monster with crowd control for 5 seconds, it's going to go back down to 50%. Again, the cap will only see 60. So it's not one of those things where you can say, oh, it's got 100% reduction, it's brought down to 60, all I have to do is wait 6 seconds. No, you've got to wait the full 10 seconds, because it will remember that it's at 100%, but it's only going to count the 60. And this is true for other difficulty modes as well. For example, Nightmare, I believe, only reduces it by 30% or something like that.
The colossal Gorgon is merely a colossal myth. In folklore, they are sons of an infamous demon who smashed half of hell in anger after the prime evils were defeated during the Dark Exile. Why, if I had a gold coin for each of these tales, I would be a wealthy man indeed.
You're a welcome sight, hero.
So this is a great system, and what it does is it prevents people from absolutely utilizing the system in group play, you know, in stun locking too easily. For example, if you've got 4 characters, each with 10-second stuns, that could be 40 seconds of stun. So it's something that will basically be more in effect in group play. So for example, as a barbarian, if you get an 8-second stun stomp, just using random numbers, and okay, it's done for 8 seconds, it gets 80% reduction. But if the next time you do the stomp is 8 seconds later, you're not going to see a change. It's going to be a full 8 seconds duration. So it's going to be very beneficial for stuns and fears and any kind of control that has longer cooldown durations.
So you're the wretch that's giving me such trouble. Thrash as you might, you will not keep me from the Soul Stone.
What in the hells was that?
An illusion to drive fear into your heart.
We've seen the fires you've lit. Fear has no more hold on us. The catapults could break Azmodan's lines, but we can't raise them from their berths while demons swarm over the walls.
Worry not. The catapults shall be raised, and the demons will flee back to the hells that spawned them.
It is grim out here, but we've seen worse.
Gotta say that Act 3 is one of my favorites. Something about this castle siege, I really like it. Actually starting on the defensive rather than the offensive. This build's working out pretty good so far. Of course, I'm putting out a lot of damage.
Thank the heavens you're here. We're down to 4 lads until reinforcements arrive. Trouble is, the lift stopped. We can't see what went wrong through all the muck down there. Oh, what now?
More of the brutes from below, Captain. What do we do?
Private, if you need to be told which end of the sword goes where, you haven't been paying attention. Fight to your last breath, lads!
So I like the fact that my shaman not only retains his chicken ability but can heal as well, so he is doubly useful now.
The lift is moving again! Hold steady, lads! Reinforcements!
I like this area, honestly. You can see down there the monsters fighting. There were some earlier areas where you saw the siege breakers taking down walls.
Victory!
So I'm really looking forward to this change to crowd control abilities. I honestly think this is going to go a long way to bring back more unique builds focused on stuns and things like that. Because right now the stun durations are so short. It just doesn't really seem worth it, to be honest. An ability that would normally stun for only 2 seconds goes down to 1 or less. You know, what's the point in that? Now this will not affect snares. Snares will maintain their standard direction. Now I'd have to go back and look because I believe they mentioned something about helping snares a little bit. But I don't recall it off the top of my head. I don't have the article pulled up here on the side to be able to say one way or the other. Because that was a major issue too, because sometimes the snares were honestly hurt a lot. It wouldn't slow down the enemy nearly enough. I believe they did say they were going to do a reduction on that so that it wouldn't be as bad. But one of the next big things that we found out about just recently is that there's going to be a change to defensive skills. They are going to do another damage pass on Inferno. You may remember that this patch 104 already reduced the damage in Inferno once. in order to make it a little bit easier, to help the difficulty curve so that it wasn't as jarring. So normal enemies were made a little tougher, tougher enemies were made a little weaker, so on and so forth. Well, the overall damage of Inferno is going to get reduced again. There's a very specific reason for this. They are going to make it so that defensive cooldown abilities are not as useful anymore. So, let's say you've got an ability that reduces your incoming damage by 60%. Well, that is now going to be reduces your incoming damage by 30 or 35%. They're basically halving a lot of the defensive cooldowns. And because of that, and there's a reason they're doing this, before I go into because of that. The reason they're doing this is they want the defensive builds to still be useful, but what they found is that the defensive builds are too useful. People tend to stick with the defensive builds and never venture out of them unless they get insane amounts of gear. They want people to be able to go in, start using more offensive builds. The defensive builds will still have their use, of course. And this is great, that's the important part. The defensive skills need to be nerfed, but not so much to make them useless in order to make this work. But because they're reducing defensive skills, they had to reduce the damage output potential of Inferno.
The captain looked grim today. The messenger came in the middle of the night. They know something they aren't telling us. Maybe coming here was a bigger mistake than I thought.
So that's another thing I'm looking forward to, because honestly, I have made builds that were very, very defensive. And mainly because I felt that there was not much else I could do. Having anything offensive was very bad. Now, on my current Barbarian, I really need my Warcry impunity. Now my Barbarian is very offensively based. I've actually made a two-handed Barbarian, which is one of the wonderful things I love about this patch, is I can actually play a two-handed Barbarian without much issue, because the damage reduction was there, two-handed weapons have been buffed. It's been kind of fun, actually. It's been hard because I'm still taking quite a bit of damage, but Warcry Impunity is one of those things that I just, at this point, couldn't go without. And now it's going to get nerfed, but the damage is going to get nerfed. But here's the thing. Here's the way they've done it. They've reduced the cooldown effectiveness, but they've obviously reduced damages overall. And technically, the damage reduction is still going to be a buff to our survivability, even without the survivability items. You know, if we use the survivability items, we're still ahead of the game. If we don't, we're still ahead of the game, obviously. So I could probably try to take off Warcry Impunity and try a different Warcry, or a different ability altogether.
You must be the one that lit the signal fires. Help me free the recruits so they can raise this catapult. Over here.
To the catapults! Yes.
Excellent. Let's protect the recruits while they raise the catapult.
Fight with everything you've got!
Yes, I will rely on the recruits to pull up the catapult. For I am lazy and do not wish to use my manly, muscular... okay. Look, I'm not going to do it. I'm puny. I can't do it. More recruits, please. More recruits. Where are the interns? Sacrifice the interns. Okay. Well, that was easy. Next! The Gargantuan just backhands him out of the sky. Brilliant. So overall, I am really looking forward to the next patch. The one thing they haven't told us about yet, though, is this new system called the Infernal Machine. Those of you who are familiar with Diablo 2 will remember the system for Uber fights. Now, I never got into an Uber fight. I kind of stopped playing before that went in, and really never got into it again after that, because of course in Diablo 2, if you didn't play for so long, you lost your characters. So consequently, I never got into the Uber system. But I remember there being Uber, Mephisto, Baal, Diablo, and they were basically Billy Badass versions of the original bosses. They were tons tougher. And I remember that if you beat them, you would get items that you could eventually unlock Uber Tristram and fight Uber, Baal, Diablo, and Mephisto, I believe, simultaneously, which I could not imagine doing that. That had to be one hell of a fight. That's... wow. Yeah. But you had... this was all done so you can get some really amazing items, one of them being the best trinket in the game, or the best item that you could hold in your inventory that would give you the chance to use Diablo's own ability, as well as giving you plus to every single one of your stats. So this Infernal Machine is something akin to that. The Infernal Machine is going to be a way to grant you Uber monsters, make things tougher. There's also talk about them adding in a command much like the Player's 8 command that those of us who played Diablo 2 remember. If you were basically over-leveled for an area, or you wanted to get a lot of experience, the thing to do was type in a command called /Players8, I believe it was, or maybe just type in Players. I think it accepted that. And what that did is that told the game, hey, I want you to treat this game as if 8 people are playing, because you had 8-player co-op in Diablo 2. And a lot of people would do this. Well, if you didn't have 8 players, you'd probably still do it, but it's, you know, solo, if you wanted experience, you could do it, and yeah, the game would say, alright, you supposedly have 8 people helping you.
My strike is true.
And that would make all the monsters have a bunch more health, give you a lot more experience. It was a way of defeating the standard grind. And it was a way of making the game harder. And they're talking about bringing that back in a way of not so much Players 8, but maybe a Monsters command that would increase the Monsters difficulty. So we've got a return of the Monsters command, and we've got a return of Uber monsters. So that could be interesting. I'm really wondering what they're going to do with Uber bosses, because they did mention that there will be rewards for beating Uber bosses. So they haven't released that system yet.
More of those wretched demon hellbearers will be here any moment. The soldiers need to be protected. The platform will rise more quickly if we don't lose men.
All in all, this next patch sounds really great, and it's amazing that all this content is going in prior to the PvP patch that we're still waiting for. And they have pretty much been hinting that the PvP patch is going to be much more than just PvP. There's going to be PvE updates. It's just really, every time they add features to the game, it sounds great. It feels wonderful, and I love the fact that this game is getting that much love from the developers. You know, they're not really getting anything out of us for all this work that they put in there. And if you might argue, well, the auction house. Well, no, they probably don't get near as much money in the auction house that they would for the development time that they're putting into this. And a lot of people are actually still kind of upset that a lot of these changes are just old. Damage increase here, damage reduced there, these are horrible changes, where's your imagination? Well, you have to think about it. This game has already been bought and paid for. They're not getting additional dev funds from the people that have already purchased it. So honestly, a lot of your patch notes are going to be just changes to damage. And I'm sorry, I'm staring at this battlefield because it looks fantastic. Look at that. Just, wow. We're not going to see any major game changers, I think, until the actual either PvP patch or an expansion. And the PvP patch is already sounding like it's going to change a lot.
Save yourself.
But then again, you think about it, this Uber system is a pretty decent change. I wouldn't say massive. It depends on if there's going to be new boss animations. It might just be a way to make them stronger and not much else there. But that's easily doable without major development time. They're constantly updating the game, though, without asking for anything for it. I think they're taking it in the right direction, too. It just... a lot of the changes they're making are... some are pretty classic changes, and some are some pretty interesting new ones.
Are you alone here?
Of course I'm bloody well alone. Everyone else has gone and died. But I'll be damned if I leave my post. Make yourself useful, and spin that winch.
Ah, Clifton. I love this guy. It doesn't matter how much I help him, he's gonna complain. Just watch. There we go. Turn the winch, turn the winch. I want to see if I can do this without him complaining. I don't think I can. Can I? Almost. Wow. I did it without him complaining once. I should have let him complain. He's kind of a jerk.
I promised Captain Ho I'd watch my temper. Do me a favour, and don't mention that I shouted at you a little, alright?
I love it when he starts talking to the catapult. Catapult? Would you tell my friend here to help me lift you? I'm certainly not strong enough to do it on my own. Jerk.
While you tinkered with your paltry catapults, my demons breached the depths of your keep. Once they've claimed the Black Soulstone for me, your entire world will burn.
Asmodan's demons have opened an enormous hole in our walls and are flooding into the depths. If it is not closed, the keep will be overrun.
Then the breach must be sealed. I will see to it.
I bring word from the King of Westmarch.
Has he agreed to send us reinforcements?
My lord says he will send no living men to battle imaginary demon lords.
Perhaps he'll believe when his kingdom is burnt to ashes around him.
Amazing what all this world's been through, and they don't believe that demon lords are breaking through. Isn't it? It's like Scully syndrome.
The stone is vibrating. I can barely hold it. Their voices, they're screaming in my head.
Is Leah strong enough to bear this burden?
She must be. Clearly the stone wasn't built to contain 6 demon lords indefinitely. Only Leah's will holds it together.
It won't be much longer, Leah. Asmodan's time grows short. The suffering your daughter endures must weigh heavily upon you.
Everyone suffers, but to do so for a cause greater than oneself, that is the mark of a true hero. My daughter is everything I hoped she would be.
Not the most sympathetic, is she?
I'm glad this is almost done. I don't think I have much time left.
It is the influence of the stone that makes you lose hope. Remember the inn you wish to build. Your safe place.
No. You were right. There's no safe place for anyone. Look around us. If this keep can't protect us, what chance would a silly little inn have?
But you did not swing your sword.
The demonic rage is building up again. But I can do this. I know I can. Thank you.
That was odd. That seemed like it was cut off really short. Let me...
But you did not swing your sword.
The demonic rage is building up again.
Oh yeah, he says a lot more than that actually. Hold on. Let's see if we can't capture this. Nope.
But you did not
Your strength is protecting all of us. It should not be long now. Azmodan will be dead, and the Soulstone will no longer be here. Yeah, that's completely cut off. That's odd. No more journal. Okay, we'll look for that later. And the keep is being overrun, so what we're going to do is we're going to help out with that. But first, I do believe I gained a level. Let's take a look at the level, shall we? So, first let's take a look at what we're here getting from Zombie Charger. Undeath. If the Zombie Charger kills any enemies, it will reanimate and charge nearby enemies for 205% weapon damage as poison. The effect can repeat up to 2 times, so it bounces for hitting 3 enemies and basically anything else in its path, as long as it gets a kill. So this is great. This is actually really good for groups of enemies, smaller enemies that are easy to kill. Maybe not against the bigger ones, although the standard attack, the 205 by itself, is usually useful against larger enemies. But you'd be better off with something like the leper zombie for larger monsters that aren't going to die right away. So let's go ahead. We're going to try Undeath. Our secondary is going to switch over to Locust Swarm. And we have Pestilence. Locust Swarm has a 100% chance to jump to 2 additional targets instead of 1. So that's pretty cool. I don't exactly know the mechanics on how it jumps in the background. It doesn't really say. But when I've looked at it before, I noticed, hey, Locust Swarm jumps from one to the next, and that's usually good because it jumps from one to one, and then from that one to the next, and I think the original one can jump again. So you eventually get this plague going. But now each one can split into 2, and then I bet those 2 can split into 2 more. So yeah, that's going to be a massive spread. So we're going to take a look at that. And I think for that, do I want to change my buttons around? See, that's interesting. Both of these are actually really good for groups. This one does damage over time. This one does kind of instant damage. I think the way this is set up might be good.
Someone out there who would benefit from our aid right now.
So, Pierce the Veil. All of your damage is increased by 20%, but your mana costs are increased by 30%. So I am going to become less efficient now. I will do more damage, but I will also need more mana. So I can do Pierce the Veil. Let's see. Let's change from Bad Medicine. What do I want to do? I want to get some more mana back. So I could do Blood Ritual, which is mana cost paid with life, and I gain life over time. Or Spiritual Attunement, which increases my maximum mana and regenerates mana. Well, I'm not often getting hit, so I could use Blood Ritual. At the same time, let's try this. I'm going to go ahead and go with Spiritual Attunement. Let's get my damage up, go to Spiritual Attunement to increase it even further. So this is more of a, kind of a, I wouldn't say glass cannon build, but it's going to be a very inefficient one. I'm reducing my, or increasing my incoming damage in order to get more mana and to do more damage. So we're going to do that a little bit.
The demons are in the keep. They're coming up from the depths. To arms! To arms! I would ask if you're all right.
Oh yeah, this guy, the mayor from the beginning, the one who wouldn't move his cart.
You see? They can kill any of us at any time. I won't wait a second longer. I am leaving now.
A great demon army throws itself at our walls, and yet we still breathe. We live, Hollis. Where in all the world is safer than right here?
Good point. That is actually a very good point. A lot of people die in movies and books by running out when they shouldn't, because they've left the place that was actually the safest. Let's see how that works. Oh, he goes out pretty far. Let's see if I can get him to jump. Looked like he killed an enemy, but... Oh, there he goes. That's 2. I see it working. It's a little... not quite what I was expecting, but...
No one in the world is safe now.
Soul Rippers are the bane of the living, creatures born of the endless malice churning within hell. Agile and swift, the Rippers cover ground quickly by latching onto prey with their enormous tongues, and then leaping on top of their victims. From this point, the Ripper cannot be deterred. It has begun to feast.
Interesting. These two abilities actually work fairly well together. Let's go around. Let's get some Pestilence going. That's splitting, and then let's get this guy out there to do more damage. I still have 3 dogs, even though I don't have the passive for them. That was something I noticed in the beta. It just continues on. I guess they figured the dogs will eventually die, and so therefore it's not a big deal to let them stay.
By all that is holy, do you see that enemy over there?
A worthy opponent.
Of course, my dogs are so beefed up right now. Let's just go ahead and I'm going to dismiss them because I shouldn't technically... Oh. It dismisses one at a time. Let's go ahead and get rid of them. I really shouldn't have them. Pestilence. Zombie. When he gets up again, zombie. Oh, flaming ground. Gotta watch out for the flaming floors. A few more traps.
The spirits aid me.
So the beautiful thing is, if I get... Oh wow, look how many of them got Pestilence on them. Oh, that just spread like wildfire. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Ah! Get me out of there. So the beautiful thing is, getting multiple zombie chargers out should mean that I get multiple ones reappearing. Assuming they kill something. I think that's the problem, is I think they really need to get the killing blow. But if I can get multiple ones out and get them to kill stuff, then they can just keep going and be an army. I'm really liking this Pestilence rune. It just spreads so quickly. Look at that. $360 over 8. Hello. I like this. I do. And you get a large group behind a door. You just pop down Pestilence and just let them go. Excellent. Yes. This is going to be tough. Because when I get to the end, right, when I have to decide what build I'm going to make at level 60, because right now it's great because all I have to do is use the items or use the skills that they give me as I level up. And then I run into all sorts of fascinating builds doing this, right? I'm having a lot of fun with the Witch Doctor right now because I'm still leveling him. I am gaining new abilities all the time, new runes, and it's giving me something to test, something to try, and I love that. But when I hit 60, every single one of these things has been like, every time I try it, I find something to love about each different build. And I have to sit here and think, what would I want to try? Well, there's a couple things I could try, and I might just go ahead and try a whole bunch of different builds, and just, you know, if you guys want, I could record each one that I try. Who knows?
Minions. The men actually think that they can hide behind their paltry little walls. If they have only had a glimpse of the full host of hell, we will see them drown in our tide of sin. The girl is still weak, and their hero will not expect us to attack from below. Send in the ravening beast.
Indeed, the beast. So, yeah, I could do that. And one thing I'm thinking about doing is I'm going to look at like some of the passives and see what I can make off the passives alone. And one of them is, one of the passives gives your pets your regeneration and your thorns damage. So I'm thinking maybe I should create a set that's fully thorns. This was a set that people had tried prior to this patch, before the pets got their buff and damage. And it was generally, I think it was a fairly good consensus, at least everything that I saw suggested that it was not a worthwhile build. Just because the pets died so quickly, the thorns damage wasn't enough. I would think now, though, with the amount of punishment that a pet can take nowadays, you might be able to get away with making a thorns build and make it work.
A worthy foe.
Oh dear. I love that change that you can actually see the explosion radius. Makes it easier to avoid. Oops. Wow, this rune is fantastic. I just... Before I know it, everything is taking poison damage. And that I could see working very well with the, not the Fortitude, but the Bad Medicine passive. Constant poison damage, reducing the enemy damage. So yeah, I've thought about it, maybe making a Thorn region build for pets, you know, maybe make a pet build, you know, that could be my pet build. I could probably try other pet builds. I kind of want to try a version of the Sacrifice build I was using earlier that allowed Sacrifice to give me back 35% chance of my pets coming back, combined maybe with Circle of Life. So what would I do with that? Well, maybe my gear build for that one would be a lot of pickup radius gear. I could do that. There's just so many things that I could try. But I think at this point, we're at a good stopping point. We've gotten to the waypoint for the Keep Depth level 1, and just to be sure that we're on... that it's going to remember I'm here. There we go. There's my checkpoint. That's what I needed to do. Because now when I restart the game, I will start at Keeps 2 without having to kill through here. So we're good. We'll end it here, because that's been a good chunk of content and over 2 levels worth of skills and abilities. So that feels good. I like having that. It seems like things are rolling along pretty nicely here. I've only got 3 more levels before I hit 30, basically, before I get all of my abilities, and then at that point it's nothing but runes and passives. So before we end it, we'll go ahead and take a very quick look at what I have and see if any of it's any good. Oh, story.
Day 9. Young Commander Calderos believes that the demonic scourge will flee before a bloody show of righteous force. He intends to lead a charge from our fortifications tomorrow. Calderos can commit suicide by stupidity if he wants, but I'll be damned if I send my lads with him.
Alright, let's go ahead and get rid of all these items that I actually can't use. This belt looks interesting. Intelligence with life. I lose the vitality, but I gain damage. That's perfectly fine. 26, let's see, what is... Oh yeah, my new and improved Witch Doctor banner there, nice. What are you using? 39? So yeah. Well, here's the thing, that's a 26-2. 21 to 36. See, it's kind of hard to tell because of the gems. If I really wanted to do a true comparison of these items, I'd have to do this. I basically have to come over here, spend my 500 to get rid of that. That's the problem. I can't do the math in my head to figure out which would be better. So it looks like I have 23-8 and 28-7. So this is actually better than what I currently have. I lose the regeneration, of course. I'm not too worried about that. My mana has been holding pretty steady with what I'm currently using. So let's go ahead and do this. We're going to go ahead and sell. That's Dex, I don't need. That's Dex, can't use. Strength. Hey, here's a 24 one. Of course, my weapons will be better with gems. Damage converted to life. A thought, but no. There we go. 42 experience and monster stake damage. And no, I'd rather use that one. Not as much intelligence. More vital, but not overall as good. Oh, here we go. A new helm with 15 intelligence, although mine has 21. So no, that's not going to be as good. You know what? I want to take a look at it, though. Look at that. Gearfling! Alright, moving on. 27 is a new. That's more vitality, less protection. Don't get the monster kills or magic finds, so no. No. So I'm going to have to start grabbing some stuff with vitality on it eventually. So here we go. I lose vitality and magic find and experience, but I gain some more int, more damage, and protection. That's the beautiful thing. I'm going to lose life, but I'm going to gain protection from the intelligence and the additional armor. So I'm actually going to go ahead and use that. Sell that off. Two-handed staff, that doesn't do nearly enough for me. So it's just this 26.2. Oh, sorry. My leggings. Monster kills, so... Let me see. It's less monster experience. The other mods are kind of useless. It's more armor. And... yeah, okay. So, I think this will be better. Interesting. Alright, and I'll go ahead and use this as well because it's more protection. So we'll sell that. And what I'll do is that's 26. I don't need the mana regen, I don't think, so I'll go ahead and use that for me. Alright, Cormac, you have the 28, so you're going to go ahead and get the regular ruby. Go ahead and take that. Alright, I don't want to spend money to take the gem out of this because I'm not going to sell it, so let's just go ahead and do this lovely trick of salvaging it. Cost me no money. There, and I got my gem back and put it in there. Brilliant. I don't really need any more of the mats from this difficulty, so I'm not concerned about selling the items. And that's it. So there's been a quick look at the inventory, what I picked up. Obviously nothing spectacular because I'm still in normal mode. And we're going to keep going. And I'll try and continue this a little quicker than what I have been. You know, I've been kind of slow at getting these out. But hey, as you've seen, I've been trying to put out a lot more additional stuff to keep things interesting. So hopefully you guys have liked the content that I have been putting out there so far. Alright, this is going to be KageKaze signing off, as usual, advising you to thumb up the content if you like it, and leave any comments for any questions or suggestions that you might have for the channel. Alright, thanks guys. I'll see you next time.